This week on the Analog Circle podcast, more rumors are being reported as to when the next GTA 6 trailer will be shown. And the news is coming from a very different type of source, to say the least. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remake is getting an alleged release window, according to a very well-known Xbox insider. Phil Spencer conducted a few interviews this week, or should I say last week, that gave us an even clearer picture of Xbox's future when it comes to their first-party games appearing on rival consoles. And Nintendo Switch 2 will be getting AAA support, but the number of developers actually working on the console currently is pretty underwhelming. But all of these stories can be found here and much more in episode 241 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Keon Mitchell, and welcome to the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, sit down, relax, and take a load off, because we are going to have some great conversations today. And if you're not home, or if you're not in the office and you're actually out and about, possibly driving, traveling by bus, by plane, by helicopter possibly, then hopefully, just hopefully, we will be able to accompany you to your destination. Now, with that being said, if you guys do want to be a part of listener feedback, you can do it two different ways. You can either call in, and the phone number is simply 443-627-9087 to let your voice literally be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is simply the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Guys, I got to tell you something. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast, let me first shout out Xbox for putting on a phenomenal, and I do mean phenomenal, developer direct. That thing was a 9 out of 10. God dog. Whoa. I didn't see this coming. I did not see this coming. Who the world knew that these games were going to show so well? Even Expedition 33. I'm not the biggest RPG fan, but god dog, that game looks good. And then you top that off. Oh my gosh. You top that off with Ninja Gaiden 2 Black being shown, as well as Ninja Gaiden 4. Oh my gosh. Absolutely unbelievable. That was incredible. Just the pacing of the show, how much of the games that they showed. Doom looks fantastic. The Dark Ages of the Darkness. That game looks phenomenal. Jumping into the mech, being able to shoot. God, dog. It was not a moment during that presentation that I found myself bored. I was totally in tune to what was going on, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was the perfect length. It didn't seem like any of the presentations of the 4 games really dragged along like, oh man, hurry and speed this up. It was just such a perfect pace. And here we are again, Xbox yet again performing at a high level. I mean, over the summer, they had the best E3 show. And I know it's not called E3, but they had their best presentation over the summer. A perfect show. Then they come out this January and they show off South of Midnight looking fantastic, I might add, looking incredible, along with Doom, the Dark Ages. Then you throw in the surprise of Ninja Gaiden 4 and Ninja Gaiden 2 remaster or remake running in Unreal Engine 5. Oh, wait, dang. It was just an amazing show. And this just shows and proves one thing that Phil Spencer said during that interview. I think it was last year sometime, might have been almost 2 years ago. I think it was on Kinda Funny Games. Shout out to Paris Lily. And matter of fact, shout out to Danny as well. Those guys had a fantastic interview with Phil Spencer, as well as Destin Legary. So shout out to those brothers real quick. Gotta give them their credit. Great interviews. But I do just want to backtrack for a second. Phil Spencer said during that interview with Paris Lily, when it was on Kinda Funny Games, he said, I see it. I can see it. It's close. Talking about the games and, the releases of these games coming out. And we are finally here. God dog, these games are coming out later on this year. In April and May. I mean, good grief. I was so shocked. I thought these games were going to hit sometime in the fall. They said, nah. You waited long enough. You Xbox fans, you Game Pass fans is out here Game Passing it. We gonna make sure that we look out for y'all. They got Avowed coming out in February. They got State of Decay. God dog. Man, what is the name of the game? Doggone. I done just forgot the name of the game that quick. The game from Compulsion. I'll think about it later, but that's coming out in April. I think Doom is coming out in May sometime. Another game, Ninja Gaiden, came out that night. Ninja Gaiden 2 remake or remaster. That was a shadow drop. And then you got, man, what the world is this? You got, what is it? Expedition 33 coming out in the next couple of months. It was just fantastic. I did not think it was going to be this jam-packed of a show. It was only 4 games, but it felt so electric. Absolutely phenomenal. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a fun time, great time even, and it just shows these guys are finally hitting their stride. Do I have a Series X? No, I don't. And we're going to get into what Phil Spencer actually said about these things when it comes to the games just a little later in the show. And it's a very, very interesting take, but I just had to shout them out for the amazing show that they had. They are batting almost 1,000 right now. For their main shows, they are almost batting 1,000. I gave the show over the summer a 10 out of 10. I gave this. I feel like I should be giving this a 10 out of 10. As excited as I am about it, I just might have to bump that up at least to a 9.5. It was just phenomenal, man. But I'm rambling on and on and on. But I'm so excited. It's so many other games that could be possibly coming out this year. We're talking about Fable, maybe coming out later on this year. We still don't know what's going on with Clockwork Knight or whatever it's called, that Clockwork game that's kind of like BioShock-esque. We don't know what's going on with that. That may be releasing. Man, who knows? But anyway, with all of that being said, just, man, shout out to them. But, let's go ahead though, guys, and let's just go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of the show, and let's get into what we all come here for, and that is no doubt the gaming news that went down. So we got to get things started, man. We got to get it started, brother. Let's get things started with a story that I actually got from Comic Book. So for a while now, we've been hearing about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remake being in development, for some time. But none of us have seen it, let alone know when it's releasing. But according to a pretty reliable Xbox insider, and we all know him, Tom Warren, he is reporting that the game will release in the spring of 2025. Now, once again, this is just a rumor, so take this with a mustard seed of truth.
Rumor has it is something that only I know.
Yeah, so we'll just have to figure this out. Now, I did hear It was a report earlier this week that actually stated that the game may release between spring and the summer, which this would be another game inside of Game Pass. Game Pass is winning. Game Pass is the MVP right now. And y'all know I don't rock with Game Pass. But how can I put it in words, man? I'm all tongue-tied and stuttering right now. It is truly the best value. If you just want to have the best value and you don't want to pick each game hand by hand, I like this one, I don't like that one, I'm not going to rock with that, but I will buy this, and you just want a smorgasbord of doggone games, then Game Pass is the answer. And it's hard, it's getting even harder to deny the value there. All of those games are going to be in Game Pass day and date. Expedition 33, Ninja, I already said the list. I'm just sitting here as a PlayStation 5 owner. Now I'm not going to sit up here and get too excited and say, I wish I had a Series X, because truthfully, I would have still been buying these games a la carte. I would not have subscribed to Game Pass. I would have much rather just picked the games that I'm going to play when I'm ready to play them. But again, it is hard for me to sit up here and say that Game Pass isn't a fantastic value. And to think Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, the remake, because that is a first-party studio game, is gonna also be in Game Pass, possibly later on this year, along with Fable and a whole possible plethora of other games coming to the service before the end of this year. Just fantastic value. God, dog. Let's go ahead, though, guys, and let's move on to the next story, though, that I got from IGN. So let's talk, as we all know, a little bit of numbers.
Show me the money.
Now, EA reduced its expectations for their fiscal year ending March 2025 from mid-single digit growth to hold on, I got it right here. Yeah, to mid-single decline. God darn. That's not good. But it's actually because of global football, or as some people know it as football, experiencing a slowdown last year in Q3 after 2 consecutive fiscal years of double-digit net bookings growth. But overall, EA CEO Andrew Wilson said EA Sports FC 25 underperformed. Now that, unfortunately, God darn, that wasn't the only title that underperformed. So did Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which sold, God darn, it sold 50% less than their expectations. Oh man, the hurt. 50% less than their expectations for the quarter, coming in at 1.5 million players, where they hoped it would have sold 3 million. But the more interesting stat, if that wasn't bad enough that you only got half of the player base that you were hoping you were going to get, if that's not bad enough, like I was saying, the more interesting stat is it's not clear if EA was also including EA Play Pro subscription services in those numbers, including a free trial of the game. Oh man. So that 1.5 million players, some of those people that were playing that game could have possibly been on the free trial subscription. Oh man, gaming is so tough right now. I always sit back and I ask the same question over and over and over again. why don't games sell more? Why don't they sell more? Could it be a situation where too many people, it's not enough people that are actually gaming for real, but you got too many studio gamers out here. Yeah, studio gamers. That's what I call them. People that get on the microphone, they get in their studio at home or whatever the case may be, and they talk about games, but they ain't really living the life of a gamer. These jokers just want to talk about it because some of these games that people have had problems with over the years, I didn't like this game, I didn't like that game. I'm saying to myself, God, dog, did you actually play the game? No. Or are you just going with what the crowd said and you get on your microphone and you start talking about something that you know nothing about? Now, granted, let me not overstep my boundaries. Hold on, God dog it. Hold on. Because I have to at least, bare minimum, call myself out for one game in particular that I do have and I have not played yet, and people, they promise by it. That Super Mario 2D game on the Switch that was up for Game of the Year, I said, oh no, ain't no way this game should be up for Game of the Year, but I didn't play it. I have it upstairs and I did not play it. And I will also say this, when people talked about Mario Odyssey and how that game actually brought tears to their eyes, I said, oh, these jokers is wildin'. Ain't no way a Mario game on this planet Earth could ever make me tear up and cry out this joint. Ain't no way I would catch tears and feelings over a Mario game. It ain't even a storyline. It ain't even that deep. You trying to collect moons out this joint. How the world can I get emotional over collecting moons? Until I got to that one stage. God dog, man. I told the story before. My God dog, I got caught out there too. My wife had just so happened to been, going past my room as I was playing, and man, I got to that part, and I'll be your super one-up girl or whatever the theme song was. Y'all know what it is if you played it. And man, she just peeped in there at the wrong time, brother. I had to lift my head up and try to have the tears roll back inside. She said, I know you ain't crying. What the world's going on in here? You crying with what happened? I said, God, dog, this game got me feeling nostalgic. I'm up here reliving 10 years old at the moment. So yeah, I have to call myself out, or put myself on the red carpet, to put myself on Front Street as well. But I have to say, hold on, give me 1 second. Oh, pardon me. I have to say, though, I see it way more times than not. Like Days Gone is another game where people said, it wasn't the best, PlayStation game. They kind of dropped the ball on that game. It wasn't that great. I'm playing through Days Gone right now. I got about, give or take maybe 13, 14 hours in. God, dog, that game is punching above its weight. And maybe it's only punching above its weight because I thought that the game was going to be just average and, just maybe my expectations were so low. But this game has been great. It's been fantastic. I had like 2 or 3 different storylines going on at one time. Going to different locations, finding this person, having to see if I can save this person, having to meet this person out at a certain ground. I don't want to spoil the game, but certain place to meet them, and they telling me that they need me to meet back up with them. It was like several things going on at once. So that storyline so far, and it just took a heck of a turn. For any of you guys that's played it, Boomer, he's in the situation that he's in. I'm not, no spoilers. But if you play long enough, what part you get to where it's like a pivotal moment, like, oh, shucks, what do we do now? I just finished up that part, and I'm saying to myself, God, dog, this game is really, really good. But it was so many people that actually said it was bad. It was a terrible game. Same thing with the Order 1886. It wasn't that great. And I'm saying, I don't understand why these narratives start, but I get it. It's because people aren't taking time to play the game, or they're looking at it on YouTube and thinking, oh, That's not my type of game. I can kind of see the gameplay. I'm going to pass on that. But it's like, get it in your hand first. You just might enjoy it. So yet again, here we are, Dragon Age the Veilguard, getting back to the main point. It sold half of what they were expecting for it to sell. Not even 3 million, 1.5 million. And that's not even a 100% accurate number because they didn't include the free trial pro subscriptions that some people may have had when they played the game. So I just sit here and I think with a install base of combined, I know Series X and S might not be doing so awesome like on the PlayStation 5 level, but combined with the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and S, you gotta be sitting at close to like 70, maybe 80 million collectively, at least close to 70. And out of 70, possibly 70 million, only 1.5 million picked up the game. It just really baffles my mind. And it's because of this that the gaming industry is suffering. Now, granted, I'm not saying pick up a game that you have no interest in, but it just seems like with that big of a pool, that big of an amount of people inside of an ecosystem, I would have just thought it would have sold better. For some reason, Nintendo has this situation down packed. They got it down to a T where they're moving sometimes minimum, for their big titles, 20 million, 30 million units. It's unreal. And they do it on not a 100% consistent basis, but those games that they know their player base wants, they skyrocket to the moon and beyond when it comes to the numbers. So we'll see how this will, I guess, unfortunately impact EA as it goes. I know they are working on Iron Man and they're also working on Black Panther as well. So we'll see. Hopefully those projects won't be impacted because this game didn't do the numbers that they were hoping for it to do, and they'll still be on track and continue to be developed. But we will see what the ramifications of this will be when it comes to EA, and hopefully they won't have to lay more people off, but we will see. Let's go ahead though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from VG Chart. So I was just talking about numbers. Now, Resident Evil 2 Remake continues to struggle on iOS devices, being discontinued to $10 from December 10th to January 8th. The game bought in. It roughly made about $95,000, meaning the game sold around 9,500 units. And since the price went back up to $40 on January 9th, now I understand that that's a very, very short window. It's only the 27th, 29th. So you're talking about roughly about 20 days later. The game made an additional $7,000, meaning that the game moved around 175 additional units. That is past abysmal. Then here it is, the future. And I only bring it up because Xbox is bent on trying to make mobile devices into gaming devices. I get it. You want that money. You want the income. Put Game Pass everywhere. That residual income is amazing. But when you're talking about possibly selling, God dog, 175 units, 175 at $40. This isn't even the full price $70 game. At $40, it's only 175 units. And at $10, it only sold 9,500 units. So doesn't it get to the point, or I would wonder, or at least ask, when you're doing those kind of numbers, and I understand that this is Resident Evil 2 Remake, it is a older game. I get that. It's a couple of years old now. But I'm just saying that they talk about, well, Phil Spencer mainly, and PlayStation has talked about it as well. But they talk about actually making it so more games are more accessible to more people. And they look at it like iOS, everybody has a phone. It's millions upon millions, possibly billions of people that have phones. What better way to make the money by making the games accessible on the phones? But yet, these are the numbers that you get. These are the numbers. These numbers are not setting anything on fire. Not even remotely close. It ain't even a spark. This being made on the iOS, on the iOS platform. $95,000. I would imagine it costs more than that to actually put the game on iOS. So when you have this kind of slow burn, you have these many units being pushed, being moved at $10, no less. $10. And you couldn't even break 10,000 units being sold at $10. Wouldn't a person think that at that stage in the game, maybe the two consumers are not the same? Maybe the console gamer is not necessarily the same as a person that plays games on their phones. Maybe we need to try a different strategy. Now, granted, it could happen sometime in the future. I'm not going to say this is early, because this has been going on for a couple of years now, that they've been trying to push that narrative that they want their games everywhere. They want them on mobile devices. Oh, we're going to set the world on fire. It's going to be amazing. We'll have millions upon millions upon millions of players playing our game on iOS. And you get these doggone numbers. Doggone $95,000 was made in addition to an additional $7,000. It made slightly over $100,000 combined. And this game wasn't even remotely full price at $70. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm very, very skeptical on iOS ever catching on to the same level as console. And I think that, after a while, you get to a certain point, I think you might just have to re-strategize and just have to admit, again, that the two markets are not the same, and one won't cross over, with the results that you think it will. I mean, we talk about console. I was just talking about consoles, possibly being at around 70, maybe 80 million combined. When you're talking about phones, oh my gosh, that's a whole different atmosphere. That's a whole different stratosphere when it comes to how many people own phones versus consoles, and you're still not making good numbers. These aren't even average numbers. These are so below, way below. I mean, these jokers are in the equator right now. Horrible. But anyway, let's go ahead though, guys. We'll see what happens with this in the future. Maybe it changes, but I highly doubt it. But let's go ahead, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from Comic Book. So at this point, all the so-called theories, oh my gosh, all the so-called theories about the moon and numbers and the planets aligning with Saturn have proven false when it comes to predicting when the next GTA 6 trailer will be shown. But yet, God dog, I got to blame myself. Here we are again. And this time, it's possibly based in more of a reality situation, the numbers and birthdays and things of that nature, because this time it's coming from a Miami-based rock group who claims, now I mean, God dog, this is what they're saying. They claim their music is being used in the next GTA 6 trailer. Now the band said, and I quote, "Next month," which is February, "next month, our brand new single, Dracula New World Remix, will be on the new trailer for GTA 6, end of quote. Now, before we go any further with the story, I do want to point out the name of the band because I've never heard of them. Maybe some of you guys have, but the name of the band is Raven and the Dark Shadows, and their studio album is titled An Unkindness, and it's featuring members of Pearl Jam, that's a huge group, Newfound Glory, Morphine, and Guns N' Roses. So I'm thinking with those kind of names, now in particular for me, I got to say Guns N' Roses and Pearl Jam are the two that I know. But having those two big heavyweight hitters, I have to believe that this can't be just a regular local Miami band. These guys have to have some kind of connections, but I would be interested if any of you guys have ever heard of this group and if this does seem plausible. Now, next month, again, according to the name of the group, Raven and the Dark Shadows, their music is going to be in the next GTA 6 trailer in February. Now, it could be awesome. It could be amazing if this is true, but we gotta live in reality because everybody, whether you're a gamer or casual or a non-affiliate of gaming, everybody knows about Grand Theft Auto. That name carries unbelievable heavyweight status when it comes to making actual real life news, not just gaming news, but real life CNN news when it comes to how many sales this game actually generates and the records that it's broken over the years. So with that being said, it could be a situation where this group knows that everybody is holding their breath for GTA 6. And what better way to get free promo? And I mean a ton of it because we're talking about it right now. What better way to get all eyes on us, our band, our upcoming single, our album, you know, the best free promotion. Let's say that it's going to be a premiere with our new song inside of the next GTA 6 trailer. Boom. That's all we got to do. And we are going to shake up. I don't know about shake up the industry. I guess maybe to a certain degree, because again, this was a group that I have never heard of. And they got me talking about them. They had the web, you know, the internet talking about them, wondering, you know, how legit this situation is. But nonetheless, what a heck of a move. I mean, doggone, they saw an opportunity. I'm hoping it's real. But if it doesn't turn out to be real, I still got to shout these guys out for finding an angle to actually get the name of their group out there and get the best free publicity ever. So, God, dog, whatever way it goes, shout out to them. Oh, man. Masterful. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully it is true. I would love to see this new trailer, maybe get a gameplay breakdown, maybe get a true introduction to the two characters, or at least one of the characters, maybe Lucio or maybe Jason, whichever one. But we'll see. Maybe get a breakdown of the world a little more clearer, you know, but we'll see if it all comes out in the wash. Next month is only, 2 days away or so? 1 or 2 days away. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some kind of announcement in the next couple days or possibly couple of weeks. Now, the only thing about February is it's the shortest month that we have. So the one good thing is we won't have to wait too long, you know, to see if this rumor ends up being true or not. But let's go ahead, though, guys. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let's go ahead, though, and let's get into the next story. Now, I actually got this next story as well from Comic Book. So, according to an interview hosted by Destin Lagaria, we talked about it a little earlier, he sat down with Phil Spencer and quickly asked Phil if he could say whether or not Starfield will remain exclusive to Xbox, to which he responded, and I quote, "No," end of quote. And he said, continuing his quote, he said, "There is no reason for me to put a ring fence around any game and say this game will not go to a place that it would find players, where it would have business success for us. To keep games off of other platforms, that's not a path for us. It doesn't work for us." End of quote. So we see here that Phil Spencer is all about the bag, nothing more, nothing less.
Show me the money.
That's Phil Spencer. That brother said if it is any kind of way that we could have a game go to another platform and it can make us money, oh, I'm not turning that down. I'm not putting a ring fence around any title. So Starfield, you've been with us about 2 years. Now, this isn't what Phil is saying. This is not exactly what he said, but I'm sure this is what he's thinking, at least similar to this. Look, Starfield was exclusive for 2 years on the Xbox Series X and S and on PC. It is time for this game to make some more money. So you're doggone right. PlayStation, you want it? You'll give us the 30% or the 70%. I forget how the what do you call it? The splits go. But if you want this on your platform, we will give it to you for a price, for a fee, my friend. And all of your PlayStation friends and all of your customer base over there, we welcome y'all to play our game, because guess what? When you buy the game, that makes us money. And in turn, we can get this doggone debt off of our back from buying Call of Duty and doggone Activision and all of the Candy Crushes and all of that stuff. We got to pay this debt back ASAP. Doggone, the CEO is on my back, and we can't afford to have any game not go to any other platform, because we got to pay this money back. Satya the Dollar, he said we got to make sure that we getting this money back that we spent, on Activision. So I get it. Phil Spencer, he's saying, look, it's Starfield. There's no reason for him to put a ring fence around anything. And so I think that is almost confirmation, not 100%, because I will say during that same interview, I didn't quite write this down, so I'm going off of memory. And y'all know my memory's shot, but I'm going to do my best. I do remember Phil Spencer kind of saying to a certain degree that not every game is going to go to other platforms. There will still be some that will be exclusive. Now, he could have been talking about in the past tense, or he could be talking about PC. I don't know exactly 100%, but he did make a bit of a note to say that not every game is going to go over. Now what those games are going to be, I don't know, because now not only is it going to be a situation where games are going to be going to PlayStation, but they will also be going to the Nintendo Switch too, because Phil Spencer did say that they will be making sure that they get behind the Nintendo Switch too, and they will be developing games for that console. So he said a couple of other things that I can't quite remember, but it was just an interesting conversation that those two guys had. Again, Phil Spencer, man, it's never personal when I talk about Phil Spencer. It's only based solely on his job, because if I'm looking at Phil Spencer as a person, and granted, I don't know the man, I don't know the gentleman at all. I just know his representative. And his representative, we all got a representative. It's that person that smiles, that puts on a great attitude, always, maybe not chipper, but, they never put on a bad, performance, as it were. Your representative, the person that you put on when you're in an interview and you're trying to get the job because you need to make sure that these bills get paid. Oh, yeah, I do all of that. Oh, man, overtime, I love overtime. It's something I live for, yes. I can be here Monday through Sunday, absolutely. Any day you need me, I will be here, sir. Most definitely. Then you get the job and, Yeah, all of a sudden for some people, the real them comes out. So yeah, representative. And that's what I'm only talking about Phil Spencer from. He seems genuinely like a nice man. Genuinely seems like a good guy. It's just some people you can look at, you can see their, the way that they carry themselves, certain questions that they answer where it's not like they're trying to make it about them, but it's more about the team. Phil Spencer just seems to be that kind of person. And I respect that. I really respect his demeanor and the kind of person that he seems to be. I only get on Phil from the perspective of his oh man, how can I say this? Some of the decisions that this brother makes, I'm like, oh, I don't know how that lines up and makes sense for the brand. I don't know. I mean, he went out there and he said that, he wants the Xbox brand to a certain degree. What did he say? I don't want to misquote the man, but he said something to the point where, he feels like they're at an advantage. And that, they want to be kind of like the gate, like the gate. He didn't say this, but kind of like the gateway drug. Like, hey, look, we got the games over here. We got Game Pass. Come on over here and play with us. But if you don't want to play with us, hey, feel free to game where you want to game. I just don't know how that helps your brand. But that's the questions that I have for Phil. But anyway, looks like Starfield is coming to PlayStation. When and where, what month, what time, what year, nobody knows. But again, according to Phil Spencer, it looks like pretty much no game is off limits. He even talked about the red lines with Destin Legary during that interview. I really implore you guys, if you haven't listened to it, it was a great interview. And I also, once again, would implore you to listen to Gamertag Radio's interview with Danny Pena and Paris Lilly. The interviews were very, very well done. But let's go ahead, though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from MP first. So when it comes to Wolverine, things are pretty quiet. I mean, god dog, real quiet. But at least one of the bosses at Insomniac named Dezern, his name is spelled Dezern, he did say this when he was asked about Wolverine releasing in 2025. He said, quote, "We've announced Wolverine and we'd love to talk more about Wolverine, but we have to be like Logan today and remain very stoic until it's time to pop the claws down the road. As much as we're, hold on, let me read that again. It's time to pop the claws down the road. As much as we have pent up excitement, we got to hold on to it." So that's as much as we could say about, he said that's as much as we can say about our upcoming projects today. End of quote. So he wouldn't say whether or not Wolverine is actually going to make it out in 2025. He said, that's about it. Look, we know that we already announced the game. We understand that you guys want to know more and we are eager. We would love to let you guys know more, but like Wolverine, we got to be stoic and can't talk about it right now. Maybe at a later time. Now, granted, we've heard it before. I've talked about it before. Hate to sound like a CD on repeat, but we did hear that maybe in February, they could be having a different show, a state of play, as it were, PlayStation. So maybe during that possible state of play in February, maybe we get a little bit more information about Wolverine, Ghosts of Yote, and Death Stranding as well, Death Stranding 2. Maybe we get something on those games, as well as, I mean, golly, it makes me wonder, are they actually working on that Venom game? That would be so dope. It would, oh my gosh, man, that character inside of that game, it was so doggone good. It was great, actually. But I'm just curious to know what's going to happen with this. We'll see, as the days, weeks, and months go by. But hopefully we won't have to wait too long. Again, I don't know if we're going to get Wolverine this year. They are really dodging the question and not really trying to have their feet held to the fire that they're going to be releasing this year, which makes me wonder that, they could possibly slip into 2026. And this is so interesting too, because I've talked about it before and we've all seen their track record. Insomniac games work so fast. I mean, they are clockwork when it comes to releasing their games. But it seems like ever since that leak happened, what was that, about a year and some change ago, they have been, it seems like, I'm not saying they are, but it seems like it really put them to a screeching halt. We haven't really heard much of anything when it comes to Insomniac after those leaks happened. So who knows how much that actually pushed things back. There were certain things that were leaked years before they were supposed to have been leaked, like the X-Men game that they're supposed to be working on sometime in 2029 or 2030. That's supposed to be being released. So, it just seems like, unfortunately, that leak really could have done maybe way more damage than we actually know. Which is why they're not trying to commit to Wolverine actually releasing in 2025. But it's just so interesting because they're so fast. Their turnaround time is the fastest studio there at PlayStation. Nobody turns out games faster and at the quality. I mean, the amazing quality level that Insomniac does. Their pedigree of what they do is unbelievable. It's top tier. Again, especially because they're turning them out like every 2.5 to 3 years. And we've already been, when did Spider-Man 2 release? Hold on. Give me 1 second. I got to look this up. I think it was 2023 when it released, but I can't quite remember. When did Spider-Man 2 release? Let's see. Oh, my bad. When did Marvel Spider-Man release? Marvel Spider-Man 2 release. 2023, October 20th, 2023. So that was going on 2 years ago. So they might still be working on a couple of things. Less than 2 years, but Wolverine was shown off so many years ago. Hold on. When did Marvel's Wolverine trailer release? Let's see.
Marvel's Wolverine trailer. Marvel's Wolverine was announced during Sony's PlayStation Showcase in September 2021, with a brief teaser trailer giving us our first look at Insomniac's take on Logan.
Yeah, so we're talking about like 4 years ago that was shown. Now, of course, we know that sometimes trailers, they don't necessarily mean that the game is even in full production, or, it could really mean that the game is just getting ready to start possibly pre-production. So we can't necessarily always go off of a trailer, especially a CG trailer. But we're talking about that was 4 years ago, and Marvel Spider-Man 2 released like going on 2 years ago. So I would have thought that in that span of give or take 4 years, it seems like they kind of split their teams off. I would have thought that possibly Wolverine might have been a little further along, especially since, unfortunately, we got that leaked video game footage of the game that was far from complete. So I would have thought that since they had something in the works like that, then maybe it would have been further along. But it was also a report that said that they might have had to start over on certain things on the game. So it could just be a situation where they're just held up. They're having some differences creatively when it comes down to the game. And maybe that, along with the leak and, whatever ramifications that came with, could be having the game actually be held up longer. But we'll see what happens with this. Again, they're not committing to 2025. And truthfully, it's understandable. I get it. You don't want to give fans false hope. And, all of a sudden the year's almost over and people are saying, well, where's Wolverine? I thought Wolverine was coming out. Hey, people can't be mad at you if you don't set expectations. So I get it. But let's go ahead though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I got from How to Geek. So this is quick news. Now, it was a report that Sony was discontinuing manufacturing. They were discontinuing the manufacturing of their Blu-ray discs. Now, this is true, but not true. Now, they will be discontinuing their blank storage Blu-ray discs. Also, the manufacturing of mini discs as well have been discontinued. But for anyone that thought Sony was going all digital, that's just not true. That's not the case. So they will still have their games available on Blu-ray discs. Some of their movies, I'm sure, will also be available on Blu-ray disc. But again, this is just for the Blu-ray discs that were blank storage. And they went into what they do over in Japan. They actually take the Blu-ray discs and they record different shows or movies or things of that nature onto the disc and watch it, you know, at their leisure. So again, unfortunately, those are being discontinued. But that's the thing. I don't even know if those even caught on here in the States. I don't even recall seeing any blank Blu-ray discs manufactured by Sony here in the States, at least not me. Darn, yeah, I missed that whole train. But anyway, that's about it for that. But let's go ahead though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from The Gamer. So we know that it has been stated that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be getting AAA third-party support. But I have been asking this question, and I'm sure you guys have as well. How much of this AAA third-party support will they be getting? Well, according to the GDC State of the Game Industry report, only 8% of developers suggested they were working on games for the Switch 2, but 20% of developers said they're working on the original Switch. So it's a possibility that it may, you're talking about 8% are working on the Switch 2 and 20% on the original. Man, it could take some time for that support to materialize when it comes to a nice amount of AAA titles releasing on Switch 2, in my opinion, on a consistent basis. It seems like that may take a bit of time. 8% is really rough. That's hardly anybody. But I will say, to stay on a positive note, Ubisoft has reportedly said that they're working on, quote, over a half a dozen, end of quote, Switch 2 ports, along with Red Dead Redemption 2 coming to the console and Tekken 8 being slated to arrive as well. So again, 8%, it's not a high number. Oof. Might take some time. God dog, Nintendo. I wonder how powerful this console is going to be. Will it really be able to run AAA titles at a great frame rate, 60 frames per second, have fast loading times? Because I played the Switch. I've been playing it lately. Phew. Those load times, man. God dog, I am spoiled when it comes to the PlayStation 5. I mean, these games are loading up in seconds. On the Switch, I'm like, man, it's 25, 30 seconds, 18 seconds. I'm like, yeah, this ain't it. Nintendo, you got to do better. And if you're talking about, again, this console possibly being $400 to $450, man, you gotta be. I mean, you have to be comparable to a PlayStation 5 and a Series X. But again, due to those specs, it was said that those leaked, alleged Nintendo Switch 2 specs weren't even equivalent to a doggone Series S. So that really makes me wonder how many developers are going to go out there and support the Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, we know that the Switch got a lot of support from third party, probably the most I've ever seen Nintendo get over the years, so maybe that level does continue. But again, at 8%, ooh, it's going to take some time. Let's go ahead though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from Discovered TV. So just quickly, Ghost of Tsushima has been confirmed to be the first PlayStation anime adaptation and is finally in the works, and it will be releasing exclusively on Sony's Crunchyroll in 2027. Congratulations, y'all. Love Ghost of Tsushima. Fantastic. But let's go ahead, though, and let's get into the final story for this week that I actually got from Insider Gaming. So between Ubisoft's UK studio, Leamington, and Reflections, 185 jobs have been lost, with 100 of them coming from Leamington. Now, this is being done in an effort. I mean, like I said, the gaming industry is just in a bad spot right now. But this is being done to in an effort to reduce costs and restructure. Now, Leamington has been shut down, but Ubisoft Düsseldorf, and Ubisoft Reflections and Ubisoft Stockholm are open. But between the three, 85 jobs were taken away, which is very, very terrible. It's sad news, but again, it's the unfortunate state of the industry. But with that being said, though, guys, that is the end of the gaming news this week, which actually brings us into our final section of the podcast. And I know that you guys saw the question already, but let's go over it officially. And like I always say, thank you guys so much for being here. So the question this week is, how do you feel about Xbox's new direction? Now, we know that Phil Spencer, I'm not going to remember everything he said verbatim, but we do know that Phil Spencer did mention that they're opening it up. They want to give players free choice, free reign. If you want to play the game on the Xbox console, you can. It'll be a great place to play. But if you don't, we're going to meet you where you are. If you're on the Switch too, and you don't want an Xbox, we'll make sure that we get the games over to you. If you're on a PlayStation 5 and you just love that DualSense controller and you don't like Xbox's controller, don't worry. We'll make sure that Starfield makes the trip over there. We'll make sure that Senua Saga is over there for you as well. Don't worry. We're going to meet you where you are. With all of that being said, again, how do you feel about this direction? To me, it almost feels like they gave up too fast, too quickly. That Summer Games show, I'm telling you, when I saw that, and I said it, man, I don't know, maybe a year ago, Xbox is coming. They're coming. They got games. We just had to wait for them to materialize. Now, granted, they're finally here. And it's like, you got these great games coming. Of course, South of Midnight did not say that it was coming to PlayStation. That's one of those exclusives that it seems like it's going to be exclusive, bare minimum, at least for a while. But when you talk about games like Doom actually going over to PlayStation day and date, and I understand it was already that type of game. That game had been going on PlayStation day and date. Why switch it? I get that. But at the same time, you're trying to sell your console. You talk about Elder Scrolls 4 Remake possibly being on PlayStation as well, day and date. Then you talk about, what's the other game? Golly, Call of Duty being there day and date. And I get it. it's a money play. You can't cut the money off. I get it. But having so many AAA titles that are in the works, that are coming out, I just think, man, if you would held on, Phil, just for another, and I get it, that was a huge purchase, lot of money when it came to Activision. What was it, $1 billion? Man, how much was that? I got to look it up just real quick. How much was the acquisition of Activision? Let's see. $75.4 billion. God, dog. And that happened just on October 13th, 2023. So going on 2 years ago. I understand you got to get that money back, and you got to get it back as quickly as possible. But I just really think that if they had held off, they would have done much better. I don't know where this leaves the Xbox brand. I mean, I understand Phil Spencer. He said he could understand people wondering what that means for the brand, but, you know, it's going to be a great place to play. And I mean, he said all of the PR, you know, answers that you would expect. But me being a person that has a PlayStation 5 that sees that in the future, I mean, golly, Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation in about 2 or 3 months. It's going to be there when spring hits. I mean, we've already been told that Starfield, it's no fence that's, you know, actually walling it off from going to another console because it can make money. And I just sit there and I say, well, where does that leave Xbox when you can get maybe not all of their games, but some very key games on the rival platform? I don't know how many people. Now, they do have Game Pass. That is one positive thing they have. And it's not on PlayStation and it's not on Switch. And I highly doubt that that'll happen unless Xbox totally gets out of the console space. And it still might not happen. But with that being said, you know, I can understand they have that as a bit of an anchor. But I just don't know where this leaves the brand. I don't feel very positive about it. I just don't think that this was the best move. I think exclusives matter. You need that, Phil. And again, it just sounds like to me, one or two things happened. They gave up too fast, or Satya Nadella said, the heck with all of that. I don't care. We got to recoup this $75 billion and, you know, keep it pushing. One or two of those things, could have been a third. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, I want to get your thoughts on this. If you do want to be a part of the conversation, like I tell you guys every single week, you can do it 2 different ways. You can either call in, and the phone number is 443-627-9087, and let your voice literally be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is simply theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. I was your host, Keon Mitchell, and again, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Thank y'all. Now, with that being said, before we finally wrap this thing up and put a bow on it, always remember one thing. It is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next Wednesday, when we do it again, until then, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.